Hey guys, welcome to today's episode. So today I've got a very special guest, Daphne Rochester, and she is from Pacific Properties. In fact, she is the founder of this real estate agency, which is based in Jaco. And in this episode, we're going to learn all about the real estate process. So if you want to come to Costa Rica and buy a house or an apartment, what's involved? So our guest here, Daphne, I'm equally as interested in the answers as you because I've got a lot of questions. So let's get right into it. So Daphne, can you tell us, how did you come to move to Costa Rica and be based here?
First of all, thank you so much for having me. That's a bit of a long story. I wanted my kids to learn Spanish, so the idea was just to come for a year or two. They were at that age in school that I could take them out of school, and I found a school here, and one year led to another. We fell in love with the area, and we never left. And it's been almost 30 years that we've been here now, and 4 children, 3 grandchildren. We're very established, and we love it.
Okay, so let's start with the big obvious question. If someone is thinking about investing in Costa Rica, you know, they have this dream of living in tropical Costa Rica, they want to get a house, potentially move down here. What do they need to know? I mean, what's the buying process from start to finish?
Right. So it is really doable, Matt, and people have been doing it for many years, and it's getting easier and easier. You need a good realtor, and you need a good attorney. Those are the 2 main things. You have to make sure that the property is titled, free and clear, and that is all the work on the legal side. Of course, the realtor, an established realtor, will find the right property for your specifications. Can you do stairs? Do you want beach? Do you want away from town or close into town? And there's all kinds of options, but there have been foreigners relocating to this area in particular for the last 20 years, for sure. People are discovering what a beautiful place it is, and with the right agent and the right attorney, it's a very, very easy and transparent process.
From start to finish, let's say someone finds a property online or even with your real estate agency, they say, I want that property. From start to finish, how long until they could actually be living here, do you think?
Right, so start to finish, let's say if somebody's in the United States and they've never been here, first I would recommend that they make a visit and really make sure that this is the place for them. We have had actually people buy sight unseen online, but that's not the typical process. So come down, figure out if this is the right place for you and your family and meets your needs, and then find the house, make an offer, and once the offer has been accepted by the seller, it goes directly into the legal process. So we set up an escrow account, and money gets deposited into that escrow account, and then that really all depends on the buyer and the seller. If the buyer wants an immediate 30-day close, that's doable. If they need 6 months, that's doable as well. So there's all kinds of options, and really our job is to find the place that will really suit their needs and that they're going to be happy in, because a lot of people come down on vacation and they have an idea, a dream. Oh, I want to be in the mountains somewhere far away, and in fact, maybe that's not the right place for them because they don't know that in rainy season the road is a little treacherous, or maybe they have children they have to take to school, which is in town, and that would be a long haul. So it's about getting to know the client and finding what suits their needs, and it's all about service. But it's very doable.
And on the topic of escrow, how does that normally work? Like, what kind of fees would someone would they pay on that?
It really depends on the offer because every offer is different. But typically you're looking at 2.5%. Sometimes the attorney has his own escrow company, so then it would be wrapped up with the legal fees. But the idea is that the buyer and the seller come together and agree on the escrow company. There's three main ones that we use now, and they are approved by SUHEF, which is the financial entity of Costa Rica, and that monitors money going in, money going out, taxes are paid, that it's not money laundered, that kind of thing. But it really is a streamlined, easy process if you get the right attorney and the right realtor. It's really about that.
Now, you said that the attorney would help search on the title and just make sure there's no problems. In all the years you've been here, what are the most common problems that you find attached to some properties?
Gosh, I'll be honest with you, we sell titled properties, so we haven't had much of a problem. When the lawyer goes into the National Registry of Costa Rica, he can see if there's loans or lawsuits or liens on that property, and then the question would be, is it easy to fix, or maybe that's not the one and you move on to another property. But it's very transparent, and it's an easy way of checking the status of the property. The idea is that a seller wants to sell and that they're going to be honest with the situation, but even so, you need a good attorney to double check the registry.
Let's say someone wants to buy a house in a town like Jaco, and let's say they're based in the USA. Would you recommend they buy it individually, or should they form a company here? What do you suggest?
That's a really good question, because laws have been changing. It used to be, certainly when I first started years ago, that you could only purchase, or a lawyer would only recommend that you purchase inside a corporation, and that was for protection. That was for your own protection, because if you had a car accident, for example, somebody couldn't get your asset if it was in a corporation. Things have changed and laws are continually changing. So we have new corporate taxes. Some attorneys now are recommending that you buy the property in your name, or a limited liability company. It's called an LLC, and that really depends. That's an individual decision made together with the attorney, and it really depends on the circumstance.
Let's talk about taxes. So for the annual property taxes, what are they here in Costa Rica? How does that work?
The annual property taxes are just under 1% of the registered value, but many years ago, the registered value was established by a transaction. So if Juan was the original owner of the lot and he sold the lot to Mr. Jones, there would be a small transaction and it would go up a little bit. So it's always in colones, which is the national currency of Costa Rica, and it was always very low, based on a very low value. Actually, nothing to do with the real value of the property. You can have a home for $200,000, and the registered value could be 200,000 colones, which is $400. So that's going to change, and that is changing. We now have luxury tax as well, so homes that are valued over $500,000 and up pay an additional 2.5% luxury tax. That's something that came in a few years ago, and slowly, the local municipalities are revamping the registered values of the property. So it will come up, but that certainly is attractive. A lot of foreign buyers come here and get excited that their property taxes are going to be under $1,000 when in the States they're paying, $25,000. So, yeah. But the property taxes are fairly low still.
Now, let's say a foreigner buys a house in a town like Jaco. Can they come and start living here immediately? Do they need to get residence? How does all of that work?
Right, that's a really good question. So there's different ways of getting residency. They could come and stay in the house and leave every 3 months, or they can apply for residency depending on the price of the house. There's different kinds of residency now, and sometimes having a property or buying an asset will help getting the residency. If they're retired, that's another option for residency. And with that, they need a good immigration attorney. So,
yeah.
But yes, totally doable. And I know people who've owned property here for many years and for one reason or the other have not chosen to get their residency yet. Maybe they have busy lives back in the States or children still going to school. So they come and they leave every 3 months.
Okay, so it's possible if someone wanted to, they could buy a house in, say, Jaco, they could rent it out on Airbnb or maybe have someone manage the property, and they could just come, stay for a few months at a time, go back to their home country. That's possible?
Absolutely, and that's what a lot of people do. If they don't live here full time, they rent on Airbnb and they get a property manager, and that will pay the monthly bills and take care of the maintenance of the property, and that's very successful in this town in particular.
These property managers, just ballpark figures, let's say they have an apartment or a condo, what are we talking about here in fees?
Okay, that's a really tough question, because it really does depend on who the company is and what their responsibility is. Sometimes a property manager just holds a key and checks people in, checks people out, and orders the maids to come and clean. If it's a bigger service that you're requiring, like you want them to pay your bills and do everything for you, then it might be more. I would say it starts at about $200 a month and goes up, could be up to $500, in that range, depending on the services that you're asking them to do.
And would they normally collect the rent, or the rent would be paid directly to the owner?
That depends on what the owner wants, but either is possible. They can have an account that goes directly to the owner, or it goes into the property manager's account, and from there the bills get paid and the maintenance gets taken care of.
Let's talk about lending for a moment. So I'm sure you get a lot of people who come here and they ask, can I get a loan from the local banks to buy a property? Let's focus on people coming from the USA. How easy is it for them to get a loan?
Right, so we actually do provide a service of lending for that same reason. If you're not a resident, you are not eligible for a bank loan here in Costa Rica. So then it would be either seller financing or private lending. Private lending right now, the interest rates are really high. They're anywhere from 8% to 15, 16%, and short-term loans. So you would have to be able to put down at least, or the buyer has to put down at least 50% of the value, and then we have some options as far as lending goes. Sometimes a seller would offer to do the financing himself, and that's the best deal, because it works out for all parties involved.
So you're paying the interest to the seller over time.
Right. If somebody wants to sell, it actually is a win-win, because there has to be good faith. Of course, in everything we do, there's a little element of good faith that you're trusting the people you're working with. But often if a seller, for example, especially now in COVID, when some people haven't been able to make it down to their properties, and maybe they don't even want to rent it, so they're really motivated to sell, a buyer can come in and say, I'll give you 50% and I'll pay you a decent interest, maybe matching the bank interest rate, which right now is around 8%, and I'll pay you off the balance in 2 to 3 years. That would work great for a buyer, and would work great for a seller too, because at least it's being taken care of. And worst case scenario, if the buyer doesn't pay, the seller keeps that money and keeps his property. So that's not the intention, of course, but it's possible. And we're getting creative as far as the financing, how to make a deal work. And when you have two people with the same motivation, we tend to find solutions.
over the last 25 years or so that you've been here, what percentage of all these deals would you say roughly is the owner willing to do that, like offer financing?
Right. Well, to be honest, most of our deals are cash, and they have been for that same reason, because you can't get a bank loan. So if you want to come and buy here, typically it's cash. Now we're finding people are asking about financing. So I'd say, gosh, it's really hard to say how many, but people are motivated, and if sellers are motivated and it's short term, they won't hold a loan for 30 years. Of course, they want to sell their house and get out, but 1 to 2 years, very doable.
In all the years that you've been doing this, what would you say, out of all these foreign buyers coming in, what's the most common mistake they make when they want to buy an apartment or a house?
Right, really good question. So it takes us back to people come on vacation, and this is really paradise for vacation, and they don't have the stresses of home, so they can just imagine themselves living in the mountaintop with the monkeys, or even in some little house set aside on a farm, and that they can have this idea. But the common mistake that they make is go ahead and buy that property without really finding out the realities of everyday life. So security is an issue. If you don't live here full time and you have a property, you want to make sure that you are in an area that is secure, that is guarded. It just is an issue because we are a vacation town. So there's a lot of mistakes people make kind of without thinking it through, and I think that's part of our job as a realtor, is to really know the client and know what their needs are, and then match them with that perfect property.
Do you get many clients who come here and they want to buy rundown homes and then fix them up? Does that happen often? Not many foreigners are into buying rundown homes and fixing them up, mainly because they don't speak the language and they don't even know where they would begin to get materials and things like that. And also, most of the properties that we sell are already furnished and turnkey, because if you're a foreigner, again, you wouldn't know where's the best place to buy furniture and where do you get your dishes, and so that's the idea, to make it as easy as possible for the transition. Let's talk about some ballpark numbers. So we'll focus on Jaco, because that is your main focus area,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Okay. So a foreigner watching this right now, USA, Canada, they love the idea of having a place in Jaco, and this could be an apartment, a condo. What is the rough price range, the broad price range? How much are they going to need to spend?
Well, that's a general question, because we have listings on our website now start that 250,000 all the way up to in the millions of dollars. So it really depends what you're looking for. Another thing that's very important to mention about Jaco is one of the very few beaches in the country that has titled beachfront. So you own your beachfront. 99% of Costa Rica beachfront property is concession, which is a land lease from the government, and it's not fee simple as foreigners would know it as fee simple or titled. So there's only so much titled beachfront. Jaco is one of those. It's the closest beach to the city. We're only an hour and 20 minutes away, and it has been deemed now a coastal city, so it's no longer a beach town.
Right.
So the services, we have more services. So you're going to pay a little higher price in Jaco for beachfront just because you're getting title, but no risk for buying title. So people are willing. But really, there's something for every budget. Somebody can come to us and say, I have $100,000. Okay, what can we do with $100,000? Buy a lot, So there's something for every budget.
Now, we're recording this, guys. It's April 2021, so we're starting to come out of this pandemic, I think, but We're just talking off camera, and apparently there's more restrictions coming here soon. But over the last year, I know being in the hotel business, we've definitely felt it. It's been very difficult, but there are definitely signs of recovery. We're starting to get more guests. Jaco is far busier now than it was a year ago. I mean, I was just there yesterday, and it's a happening place now.
Yeah.
Most restaurants are open. But let's say someone wanted to buy an investment property like a condo in Jaco. In the next 24 months, how do you foresee the tourism market, and do you think things are going to return back to normal?
I think we're lucky because we're the closest beach to San Jose. So wouldn't it be great if this was over and all the tourism would come back? But in case it doesn't, or people are nervous about traveling, we can count on the San Jose market. And that is an absolute bonus. We're not really 100% dependent on tourists. Some businesses are, but there's a lot of people in San Jose that would love to get away for the weekend, bring their family. They can be here in an hour and a half. And people in San Jose also wanting to buy property. So I think that as far as a destination, Costa Rica is magical, and it's one of the best. It's a safe place to come, and it's a great place to invest in real estate. So when it does pick up again, I hope they come back.
So if someone is interested in your services, they want to get a hold of you and find out what you have available, how do they reach you?
Okay, so you can visit our website, www.pacificpropertiescr.com. You can email either myself or my partner, Brooke. Our phone numbers are also on the website. You can leave a message and we'll get back to you right away.
So that's pacificpropertiescr.com.
That's right.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for doing this interview. I know the conditions have been challenging in this heat, but I appreciate it. And guys, if you want to learn more about the real estate market in Jaco, get in touch with Daphne. Daphne, thanks so much.
Thank you, Matt.
And I'll see you guys tomorrow.